Hello and good morning out there, traders. It is February 27th, 2024. Welcome to the Apteros Daily Market Insight. Let's dive into our recap. So, yesterday we were kind of neutral just out in this area, but we had a line in the sand that was also neutral for the session, and we were paying attention to that coming into the open. And we were a little bit more bearish and skew overall. But it was very minimal in terms of an edge. We were basically looking at it like 55-45, maybe 60-40 to the bearish side of things. And that's also going to hold true today. But what was interesting about the trading session is, once we had our open, we looked like we were going to hold and stabilize up above, and the market just wasn't able to really press through and get up to that destination. That's kind of our first sign that we have to really be cognizant to the downside. And then we just get into our chop zone here, right at our neutral area, and once again, if you were looking, from the long side of the lows here, not able to just release. If this market doesn't really release in there, that's where the shifts usually occur. And we get that full shift into scenario two here, that acceptance picture, and we get the layup short trades here coming into the close of the day to the downside. And it's just one of those days where we have the right read in terms of not being a strong bearish picture, but an overall bearish looking situation. And this neutral zone was a really good line in the sand for the session, especially if you look at it from just a straight support and resistance type of situation, right? Kind of holding up above, breaks down, and then holding down here. That's really solid in terms of respecting our prep, respecting our levels, and being able to trade price along with acceptance. So now we're taking a look at today's DMI, and it's a little bit of a different situation. Going to take some nuance to explain it today, but the basic way to look at it is we are still kind of 60-40 to the bearish side of things. We have a higher time frame idea that completes down into here. So in other words, we have a higher time frame idea that's looking to come down into this area. But getting there, you can see, has not been easy for the bears. Every time they make some headway, it's like, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back kind of deal. 3 steps forward, couple steps back. So we're seeing that auction generally grinding to the downside, and that keeps us in this bearish skew. But we do have a little bit of dissonance where we're sitting at right now. One of our time frames refuses to go into a bearish situation, so it adds a little bit of dissonance to us in the overall picture of things. And this particular neutral zone is going to be really important for the morning. In other words, looking at it from an acceptance picture, if it breaks to the upside, this is the overall destination. If it breaks to the downside, this is the overall destination. And that's kind of the early session plan, right? Coming into the open, whatever you're kind of seeing around the acceptance picture here, then that becomes destinations. From there, from that particular zone, is where the bearishness or the bullishness starts to get tested. So if we break to the upside, we come into this area here. And this zone here is just a lot of price confluence with our shorter time frames, but it also means something to them as well. So if we head up into here, it's a destination to the upside, but it tests the bearish behavior that we are seeing generally across the board. Because if this area breaks, it starts to go in, to the upside, then that bearish behavior becomes nullified a little bit more, and we start to see more bullishness in this market, possibly heading up into this neutral reference here. And then, of course, if we see a really bullish market today, looking at the all-time highs as a possibility there. So that's kind of the general game plan around the upside from this neutral area. To the downside, if it just breaks and holds below, this is the overall destination for us here. And then, of course, we're looking at that line in the sand for a hold or a breakdown into that neutral zone. The main game plan around this line in the sand is the hold. So looking for the bulls to kind of engage here, hold it, bring it back up into there. So just planning out our general path of what's, on the table for us today. From this neutral level, the break to the upside heads into this bearish area. That bearish area, then, the expectation that means something for us is that we hold and return back down into here for possibly doing something like this, and then maybe even a break to the downside for the continuation down into that. Okay. If it breaks to the upside, in other words, we get the hold, we come up into here, and we see this, then the general destination is here. And then if we break out from there, it's a continuation further through testing all-time highs and possibly through them, right? So that is the general game plan there. It's our main lists for the session. Scenario 1 is that we hold it. Scenario 2 is that it breaks up above. If we get there, right? If we get down below, the second list is for the bulls. So we're here. We see the breakdown into here. Scenario 3 is that we hold it, heading back up into that neutral area. Scenario 4 would be a breakdown of it into that neutral area, and then a continuation to the downside is possible. And there is a little bit more, downside here into the 2019 or the 2019, the 5019s somewhere in there, and that would be the next area that we have to really pay attention to. So that's kind of the general game plan to the downside. What's critical about where we're currently sitting in price is this neutral area here. This neutral area is going to kind of be the hinge for the early morning session, and then we start to test the general bias that we have from different time frames. All right, so I know this wasn't like a normal type of DMI for us, a little bit more explanation around how this market may develop today. And the only reason why that is essentially because we're in a little bit more of a difficult context. I was borderline thinking I shouldn't even really put a full plan out there today, just because of where we are currently sitting in this neutral zone. But I think that this game plan suits what's happening in the context and the narrative overall. And I think that in general, this is the best clear picture that we have for the ES today. So, be patient out there, mind your acceptance, and trade your process well.